Greetings, YouTubians, and welcome back to Wayne Sharp World, where today I've got another relatively new Civivi for you to check out. Today we're looking at the Civivi Stylum. Now, before I go any further into this review, I'd like to thank you guys for tuning in today. If you like what you see, please do me a huge favor, hit that subscribe button, follow along, and I will continue to bring you the content. Now let's take a look at some overall specs on this knife right here. We have an overall length of 6.85 inches with a blade length coming in at 2.96 inches, a blade width of 0.75 inches with a blade thickness of 0.12 inches. This blade material is 10CR15 COMOV. Relatively new steel. We'll talk a little more about that when we get to the blade. We have a drop point style blade with a flat grind, a handle length coming in at 3.96 inches, a handle thickness coming in at 0.45 inches, handle width coming in at 0.625 inches. Micarta for the scales. We have a locking mechanism of a double detent slip joint style knife. We'll obviously hit a lot on that as we get into the action and overall function of the knife. We have a right hand tip up carry with a weight coming in at 2.39 ounces and a price of $59.50. And this is actually designed by Ferrum Forge. I'll hit on that a little more here in just a second as well. Now, let's take a look at some size comparisons, because this is kind of your typical medium, your small medium style knife. We'll put it up here with the Civivi Elementum and one other Civivi, a newer Civivi, one that I like a lot, the Civivi Bow. As you can see, pretty close to all three of those knives, almost identical in length to the Elementum. I think the Elementum is a pretty good gauge to go off of as far as thickness, overall length. Not quite feel in hand, as the Stylum is obviously a little more slender than the Elementum, but nonetheless, there's those. And got a couple more here. One that is another very good comparison, the CJRB Rhea. That is, I can't believe did you see me botch that flip on the Rhea? I think that's the first time I ever did that. That's we'll chalk that up to a greasy thumb, who knows. And the Ferrum Forge Stinger, so a little Ferrum Forge comparison. And as you can see, this isn't your typical Ferrum Forge style design. I would not necessarily think that was a Ferrum Forge design based off all the other Ferrum Forge designs that have a little more of, the finger choil going on. This has a finger choil. I'm getting ahead of myself. But as you can see, not your typical Ferrum Forge design. Now, let's get into talking about this blade here, because at the end of the day, I don't want to say it's nothing special, because, but it's not. It's just your typical regular drop point style blade. And again, not very Ferrum Forge-ish, which isn't, it's not necessarily a bad thing. Ferrum Forge is just one of those makers to where you always knew a Ferrum Forge once you saw it. And this, it does have the Ferrum Forge maker's mark, which is the only thing that really gives it away. I personally would definitely not think this is a Ferrum Forge design if I didn't see that maker's mark on it. As for the actual edge on the blade, it's not bad. It's coming in at 17 thousandths. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's maybe just the overall thickness of I think it's a combination of the thickness of the blade stock and the narrow width of the blade. Not the best slicer in the world, but it's still a very efficient cutter, especially with that 17 thousandths edge. Jimping is nice. You got the jimping right up there, but it's not. It's hard to fully utilize it to its potential of normal jimping, because it's got that double detent slip joint to where it's up here, and I don't want to move my hand closer up the blade because it kind of has a choil, but it's very shallow. It doesn't exactly give your finger a place to sit. So I'm constantly worrying about going too far up and cutting my finger, so I can't really do that. So I'm kind of like trying to press down, and it breaks the double detent. So, jimping, yeah, if you're pushing through on a cut, you could use it, but then you want to be careful, because once you push through, you could potentially, as you're coming down, break the detent. So it just doesn't totally work for me. This is obvious, though. It's not a super hard use knife. If you're doing a real massive hard push cut, you probably shouldn't be using this knife to do it with unless you're in a really big pinch. Definitely more of just kind of your casual style carry for light cutting tasks. You know, it is what it is. Going into the handle and ergos, they're okay at best. It's not that ferrum forged footprint that we're so used to. No real hot spots. My card is decent. For $59, you can't ask for a whole lot. But I don't have too much of an issue with this. It actually has a nice that grainy appearance that you can see all the fabric of the micarta showing through. So it looks pretty good. No real issue there. The clip is kind of an oddity. So ergonomically, aesthetically, and carry purposes, it really works. I really do like it. It's a true deep carry clip. There's nothing, too bad about it. But now as I look at it, I'm kind of wondering, obviously I haven't disassembled this knife. That's got to be kind of hard to take apart. I'm assuming that you take this side off first, and then there's a way to get in there. But yeah, that'd be pretty hard. I'm sure there's a way to do it, but I haven't disassembled it. This is basically just a kind of a performance review slash, not necessarily first impressions. I've had this knife a few days. Carried it some. In all honesty, the double detent slip joint thing isn't really my cup of tea, but I know it is for other people. So it made for unique content to get it on the channel, but I haven't been exactly carrying a lot of this, just enough. I run it through the paper test, the cardboard test, the throw it in the pocket, hold it in the hand, fidget with the tests. No real long-term use here, so keep that in mind. Again, obviously I haven't disassembled this either, but yeah, kind of wondering how that works there. But as for the clip, when it comes to deployment, I wish it was a little flatter or something. When you hold it in hand, I keep going in to move the liner lock. When you hold this guy in hand here, it's nice for like right here, but maybe my fingers are a little wider than the average person. I don't know, but my ring finger wants to fall right here, and I don't have as much grip. Yeah, I got some, and it's okay. I don't know. It's just this is kind of a tricky little knife. But yeah, so the clip has its pros and cons. I think it's something that they could improve on and make better, because I really like this area up here, and there is really no hot spots on it. There's no hot spots. You feel it because it obviously sticks out quite a bit, and the handle's narrow, but it doesn't poke you. It doesn't feel uncomfortable. So I do like that about the clip a lot. Going into the action, again, it can be tricky because you have to get just a right grip on it. And so you kind of, grab it with the clip here, get your thumb up here, and it does come out. But the double detent makes for a stronger detent, which is not necessarily ideal for a front flipper. Now, I will say the jimping on this front flipper in the raised area here, it's pretty good. I don't have a lot of issue with that. The issue is more with just the whole getting that right position in hand, which again, after I've carried it for a couple days, after just a couple hours of fidgeting with it and getting used to it, it's not something that you can't almost master. It's not too bad, but it still has that slightly awkward feel. And when you get it out on the detent, it's kind of clunky, I guess is the best way to put it. The feel and action is just a little weird. It kind of feels like a $59 knife, which might sound a little weird to say, but keep in mind this is a Civivi. Civivis usually cost $50 to $70, but they don't feel like a $50 to $70 knife. They feel like a $100 to $120 knife. They're just, their action and feel and performance is usually so much better, so above the price range of the actual knife. This one is a little more just average and in the ballpark, I guess is the best way to put it. Like I said, it has that clunky kind of sound and feel to it. Now, I think some of that has to just do with this double detent system. There's obviously, you're not getting that thwack from a liner lock coming in and locking the blade. So that's just, that's the nature of the beast with this guy. As for the whole open and close fidget factor that a lot of people usually like with the double detents, it's okay. But again, it's not, if you're familiar with the Monterey Bay Knives EZC, that's kind of like the measuring stick to go off of, because I do think that is the best one that I've ever come across. Really, really like it. This one is not as smooth as the EZC. Not even close, but it's decent. It's decent, I guess, is the best way to put it. I don't know what it is. This knife, for some reason, it has a slippery feel in my hand, and I'm not 100% sure what's causing it. It's really weird. Every once in a while, I just come across a knife that is just hard for me to keep in place in my hand. This is kind of one of them. As you can see, I'm operating it and it's working fine. So it's not something where like I'm dropping it. I just personally don't feel like I have a really good grip of it in hand. But at the end of the day, I'm not dropping it. The blade's coming out. So, you know, it's okay for what it is. That's my problem with these knives, is they're just not for me. But again, this channel is more about just me. It's about all you guys, which is why I have it on here. But let me know, what do you guys think of these double detent slip joint knives? Because they can have their pros and cons, and some people love them, others hate them. I personally am not a fan, but going off the action, the materials, and everything, you know, it's okay for what it is. Now this steel, this 10CR, God, what was it? 10CR15 COMOV. I did a little research on it. Sounds like it is comparable to VG10. Now, as you can see, I want to point this out because I'm sure some people probably noticed this. This has a few rust marks, and it's got some wear and tear up here. This is obviously not a new one. This was sent in to me from my buddy Jesse, so thank you, Jesse, for that. But he's carried this quite a bit. He lives in a very humid area of the country, and you know, he's had it in his pocket, sweat a lot, left it in his car, so it's gotten some pretty good heavy use. So don't fret about the rust and the wear up here. This is obviously, this knife has been shown some love. So no knock on Civivi there. That's just what happens when you put a knife through the ringers. But it's, as far as the steel, it seems to be okay. I mean, I like N690 and VG10 pretty good. It has decent corrosion resistance. This one actually is showing some corrosion, but again, any knife, even if it's, you know, stainless, it's not necessarily stain free. It can still get a little rust of patina on it if you don't, you know, keep the blade oiled, keep it clean, you know, properly maintain your knife. So no real alarms there, but regardless, I don't, the steel is just okay. It doesn't seem to be overperforming or underperforming, just your typical average, you know, VG10 stylish steel. If you guys know anything else more about 10CR 15 COMOV, let me know. Very new steel to me, so I don't want to say too much. Again, that was just what I have found out through my own little research of it. But at the end of the day, my overall thoughts on this knife, me personally, like I said, I don't dig it much. It's not necessarily my cup of tea, but some people can really get into this. Some people, you know, some people need a non-locking knife if you're in certain parts of Europe, or there may even be a law like that somewhere in the US. I don't know. I live in a pretty lenient area when it comes to that, so I'm not a professional there. But regardless, you know, it kind of is what it is. It's definitely not a bad offering, but it's an offering that is for, I think, more of a limited part of the market, I guess is the best way to put it. Not everyone's going to be lining up to buy one of these, but if you have one, let me know what you think. I'm really interested to hear your opinion on this one, because it's pretty different, but at the same time, it is another offering from Civivi, one that I find to be okay. Price is okay, materials are decent, just not going to float everyone's boat. So let me know what you guys think. I hope you enjoyed this one. Hope you have a great rest of your day. And until the next one, I'm out.